Okay, hello guys. This is Aretha McGraw Griffin. I'm out here on the back of my property line, and today is March 4th, 2018. With this initial issue with Mr. Bailey, he had initially complained about the fence line down on that end being off, and that was the only complaint, which I adjusted before I knew that there were any attorneys involved or anything. Apparently there was some cross communication. He had not seen that I had made the adjustment, got an attorney, da da da, or whatever. So now we're here. Got the surveyor. We came and adjusted from what the survey showed that he sent over. We came in and adjusted this area. I'll show you. This is my property to the left. This is his property to the right, which is about, I think, 30 acres or so. So nothing's out here, just 30 acres, okay? Again, this was not intentional. It was an error. I paid someone to put this up. I'm not a fence installer. So I've continuously tried to correct this problem. The surveyor showed that there was this block or whatever. So we moved from here, where this hole is, to right there where the fence is located, right? I'll say, we'll see how far that is. So we moved that about a foot, okay? So again, my property, this is his property here, and it was this foot that we were talking about. That was done. That was the last thing that was done, because that far end down there was about 2 feet off. In the corner is what the initial complaint was about, and I had rectified that. This up here, when I spoke to him 2 days ago, when I saw him out on the back property, I thought he was James. I couldn't remember how he looked, and I came out and I thought he was James, the surveyor, who I had previously spoken with, I think on Wednesday, I believe it was Wednesday, who told me he was going to come out. I came out on Friday, heard my dogs, and came out, thought it was James. He said, no, it wasn't James. When I asked, I said, well, are you Mr. Bailey? He said, yes. So I said, well, I thought that you were James, because he said he was going to come out. He said, oh, well, good luck with that. And from there, I guess I assumed by that he had a hard time getting James Butler out here. I don't know. But from there, we spoke, and he had put down this pole here, these iron rods, which he said he marked 7 feet from the post here. This stick that he left for me to use as a measuring point does measure. When I go up here, it does measure. I can't get this. 1 second, I'm sorry. It does measure 7 feet, as he stated it did, as you see. He told me he told me that he was putting this out to use this as a guide. He had also mentioned, and I just want to mention this, that my request, because I told Melissa, the paralegal at my attorney's office, that I was confused about what the north end part that he was complaining about, because that's our state right there, and I was confused about what he was saying on the north end, and if he could meet me out here, and if he wasn't comfortable with meeting me out here, I could leave, for his convenience, I could leave a bag with can of spray paint tied to the fence. And he said that he received that message as if I was being malicious. And of course, his communication is coming from his attorney. And I assured him that it was not in a malicious spirit. I was confused, and I just wanted to know exactly what he was speaking of, because I've come out here now several times, to correct the first initial complaint, which I did, and then after the surveyor of Mr. James Butler correcting that middle section that I just showed you down there, that was about a foot off in the center of this entire long fence. It was, I think we probably had to move about 5 posts in the center of this. And then when he said the north end, once I sent in an email with the area that we corrected circle in red, Melissa came back and informed me that he said everything was correct, but the north end wasn't. And I was completely confused. And I said, can you please just ask him, can he show me what it is that is the problem now, so this can be, rectified? And, and we spoke, and I told him, I said again, and I reminded him again, initially when he came to us, and he was very aggressive, and later he came to my house when I wasn't home, and my son gave him a phone number, and he called. I don't recall because I had a lot going on. At the time, I didn't mention to him that my son was in ICU at Grady Hospital, had been shot after getting off work, and someone tried to steal his new car at a car wash, and was shot 4 times. And so I wasn't focused on this fence that was a foot or so off, right? And it was not to be... not that I was ignoring anything. I just said, please give me time. Please give me time. Please give me time. And eventually, as I kept getting these calls over and over, I went ahead and told him what I was going through. So anyway, I mean, that wasn't a concern of his, and it mattered. I understand he had just bought the property like a couple of weeks before. This fence had been put up had been standing for about 3 years or so, I guess. And I told him that, we had gotten a surveyor to mark it before we even put the fence up. And like I said, we had someone to come out here. We got from the Home Depot that actually put this up back here for us. And, I told him it had been done up for years, and he was, he kind of verbally, aggressively came at me and told me, no, I was lying about it, and and so forth, which is not even important at this point. But he did, when he did get my number from my son and he called me, he told me that his wife told him to call me and apologize to myself and my husband on how he had approached us and how he was speaking to us. And again, we were going through a lot at that time. So the whole thing was kind of messed up. But anyway, we're here now, and I'm placing this stick here. Let me move my measuring tape where he's placed it. So if I come to his line here, which is 7 feet, right? He said that this is, 7 feet off. I come to this line, I'm gonna step back, and from here, I'm gonna just show you where he's saying I'm off. So approximately, he's saying I'm off 1 inch. Okay, so what I'm gonna do this morning, he had mentioned also, he put these flags here on several places where he said it was off. Of course, here on that part, he says that it's off. Again, I'm gonna put this stick down, and I'll record this just showing where I'm off, and then once I make this correction, I'll record it where it's off. Now here he was complaining that this was on his line. This is actually, the post, as you see, is about 2 feet back, or 2 inches. I don't mean to say 2 feet, 2.5 inches back from the property line. The thing is that now he put this flag here and said that this is on his property, this gate here. As you see, the pin there, the U-nail or whatever that thing is called, has popped loose from his fence. So all that has to do is be buckled back down, and we're off his property. So that's his complaint here with this flag, that is touching his property by 2 inches. That has to be buckled. He had also marked, he had mentioned when we were talking, which he didn't put anything here, that this area was also on his property. And I said, oh, okay, well, let's kick it back. It's now off the property, right? What I'm gonna do, what I brought to pin that down so that won't be a complaint, this little anchor thing, so we won't have that right there on his property. So, like I said, this is my property here, back here, and this is his property right here, okay? And of course, it's heavily wooded, 30 acres or so. Can't see anything going through there. But we're talking about, okay, this is the whole inch that this lawsuit is on, okay? So now I've moved it back. So I can actually bring my fence up some because that's the property line according to him. Okay. So I actually kicked it back too far. I'm gonna move back just a tad bit. So I'm gonna use that. I'll bang that down in there to keep that from swinging over to his property an inch. Okay, because it is a fill fence and it does give. So I'm gonna go down here and do that. This tree is on my property, but he said that because, see, he flacked it, it's on my property, but because it does touch his property about an inch, he said he wants this part of the fence on the back side of the tree. I'm gonna make that adjustment. And again, it's the same way with that tree, and these posts will be moved back like about an inch. And then according to him, that's all that needs to be done. I'm gonna go ahead, we're out here. My husband's coming out to help me. My son's coming out to help me. But I wanted to record this first part so that, you know, you can see what's going on here. That is, you know, because the surveyor doesn't, report doesn't truly show in inches and feet and all that stuff to give you an accurate, it makes it look like it's magnified to a bigger situation. So that's why I want to show that it was only an inch is what we're talking about. Okay. And again, it was not anything, this inch was not anything that was intentional. And I explained that to him, and we had a very pleasant conversation, and I let him know I was going to go and inform the attorney's office that I had spoken with them and that we were going to do this. I asked him to leave his tools out here, and he said that he would. So once I'm done, I'll take another video showing what's been done, and then send it into the attorney's office so that it can be delivered and communicated that I have corrected this inch here. Okay, so let me get to work, guys. Thanks. Okay, so again, today is what, March 4th, Sunday. Just completed, finished everything. Now right here is the corner. It's kind of a modification because we just went ahead and put a door up right here since we were messing with the thing. Again, Mr. Bailey had marked this post here, saying that it was, as you initially saw in the first video, that it was about a ½ an inch, if that, over. And so as I told him, I would shave off the inch of this wood, which you can see the fresh wood here. We've shaved into this post and shaved it back, so it's now there. And I'll show you, this is the iron pin for the county here. I'm on the property line. Again, it was only about maybe a little less than a ½ of an inch over. But I'm gonna show you just the markings with using the tools that he left out here. The iron pins that he put in the ground here, with the line ran 7 feet out away, there's iron pins going along out here 7 feet away from the property line. According to him, this is a straight line. I'm trusting him in what he did. So this stick here that's on the ground is again what he left, that I measured in the first video, that was 7 feet long, that he had cut. And I'm just gonna line it up on his line to the right and show not touching to the left as we go down to the markings that he put on the north side. Nothing was over an inch in the few places. Let me show you. So here on the very first part, when I line it up here with his line, not going over it, right inside of it, I'm clearing. I actually went back a little bit. So as you see, I'm actually clearing here the property. I am on my property line. Okay, so again, it was only about it was less than a inch, a ½ an inch, I'm sorry, but I still cut it back a little more. So when we go up here, he had marked, this is his marking here, which I'm not sure why, because this post was not off the line. It's actually inside, which I'll show you that. We did buckle it down a little more with some U-nails. to make sure it wasn't the fence buckling out that he was complaining about. So again, here on the line, not exceeding it. And then we pan back over and see that I never touched this, so it was never outside of the line. Okay, never touched that. All I did was buckled this down again because that one at the bottom had come loose. So nothing was wrong there. So I'm not sure why this was put there, but as you see, there's about an inch of space there that I didn't touch. This part again was a part on this fence that I had initially showed that I was going to put this little joint there, whatever it's called, to fasten the fence down, because he was saying the fence was on his property, which all it had to do was be kicked back, no big deal. But I buckled it down right there so that it wouldn't sway. All right, when I put this down, coming off the property line that he's marked 7 feet out from the property, okay, coming over it, not exceeding over his line, and pan back over to this side, and as you see, I'm clearing it, not touching it. It was just a matter of pushing the fence back with my foot and using that little piece there to pin it down. No big deal there, okay? So we go up, and this fence, this tree is within my property, but it does grow. Majority on my property, some of it is on his property line, about an inch or so. So he said because it was my fence, he wants the tree, he wants the fence, because it's my tree and my fence, he wants the fence placed behind the tree, which is what I did. So you see his string is back here now because I put it on the back, tied to the back of the fence. That's his string there. Okay, I left all the strings in place that he tied to identify on the northern side what the issues were. Okay, so as we continue and we go, he has this one here, all right? That was moved back about an inch. When you pan over here, I'm not exceeding the property line or his 7 foot from the property line. And as you see, I'm actually about an inch inside my property. This is the property line here. So we're about an inch inside, okay? That's another mark. Right here, the same thing. We also went in between these panels, which are pretty easy to pull up and just bang back down. It's not a permanent fixture. We pulled it up and banged it back, and we went between the panels and used his tool, his 7 foot stick, to make sure that the panels in between were not swaying out, and we tightened the fence where it probably was kind of buckling out so that that would not be an issue. Okay, so when I put this down, we pan over here to the property line. I'm over, okay, over here. So I'm not over his line, the 7 foot from the line. We go back over here within the property line, okay? That's the panel, that's my pole there, all right? Again, my trees here, he wanted them behind. The other ribbon is behind the tree itself. I don't know if you can see it there. Yeah, it's on the other side probably. But we put the fence behind the tree because it mainly grows on my side, but put it behind so that we can resolve this. So some small portion of my property is still on the opposite side of this fence. Okay, this block that the county put in splits our yard, so it's half on his, half on mine. My fence is way behind it. Half on his, half on mine. My fence is back here, down in here. From the survey that Mr. Butler had done for him, that was the area that was fixed. About 5 poles were moved. Like I said, a little, you know. He flagged one thing. I know he had only stated that it was the north side that needed to be fixed at this point. Everything else he was not concerned about. But I noticed that there was a flag on this tree here, and I'm not certain why. I think he wants it on the back side. But however, when I use his stick on his line for the the 7 foot. If you go back over here and pan over, you see that I'm not even touching it. I don't exceed over. The tree is completely on my property, close to the line, but I'm not exceeding it. The fence isn't on his property. I'm not touching anything. So all of that is fine. What was down there on the south end had already been done before we were ever aware of any attorneys, and that was his initial complaint that we had already fixed before I had any idea that he had even gotten an attorney. And that was what he had spoken to me about, and I fixed it after everything kind of calmed down with my son and we were getting through the winter. It only took me a few months to come out here and get it fixed, as I had asked him to please give me time. So I think at this point I've resolved everything of concern for him. What was changed today was only a few things that were less than a half an inch, in a few places. So I think everything is resolved. If y'all need me to do anything else, please let me know. Thank you.